Okay, welcome everybody to Cartoonist Northwest meeting, and I'm very happy to introduce our this month speaker, Chelsea Apkin.
Hello. Um, yeah, hello. My name's Chelsea. I am a cartoonist and artist, residing out of Texas. I specifically live out of like the Dallas area, if anybody's familiar with that spot. But yeah, I've done art for a really, really long time since I was like a kid and really started taking it more seriously when I was around 13 or so. That was when I figured out I wanted to do something in the art field. At that time, and for a long time, I thought I wanted to work in animation. But I also had a really strong draw to comics, and that's kind of where what I started doing when I was much younger. I used to do like three panel comics like every day after I got off of school, and I would do like so many different strips and came up with a lot of different characters. And soon after that, I started sharing my work online and started kind of getting confidence in like um, sharing my work, but also wanting to get better and learning, teaching myself how to use stuff like Photoshop. Well, I think it started with like GIMP and then Photoshop, and then progressively just kind of working on my style and just getting better in general. Um, and then from there, I went to school. I got my BA in animation, but I started school doing something completely different in like science, but like I opted not to do that because really wasn't passionate about it, and I knew this wasn't really going to be the path for me anyway. So I switched my major and I studied animation, which at the university I went to was more so, I like to call it more so like a digital illustration degree, because even though we had a couple animation classes in there and I learned some things from that, it was more so just like me doing a lot of like digital drawing and digital work, getting more acquainted with like my tablet at the time. I also worked at my school's newspaper, so I got um, experience in doing editorial work and working on like a really tight schedule and deadline. And I think from there, I realized that I wanted to kind of pivot again and do more illustration. And then also like I wanted to continue and to focus more on comics specifically. That's where I found like the most contentment, and like I really found my place in like just doing comics, although I have kind of my hands in all these different sorts of things. I think that they're all related anyway. So whether you're doing like animation or like storyboarding or illustration and comics, it's all related. Like you're kind of choose like different things for the same, you know. So but yeah, I that's where I got my bachelor's, and that's kind of where my head was at. And then COVID hit. I like graduated December 2020. So I started freelancing, selling my work online, doing like personal commission work. I did some freelancing gigs for a few uh like online publications and just a couple of things that kind of came my way. I did some collaborative work for a planner company, Giphy. I did some work for them. I was starting to get my stuff kind of published in different places. And then I realized like, oh, let me go to, I decided that I wanted to get a master's degree. And it was at the end of my year, or I think right before before COVID hit, I found this program in San Francisco through CCA. They have a Masters of Comics program. So I thought like, well, if I ever pursue grad school, this would be the program I would do. And lo and behold, like a year after, staying at home and kind of freelancing, I decided just to pursue that. So I went to grad school. I did a thing where I was in San Francisco for the summers, and then I was still here in Texas. Um, for the fall and spring. So I didn't have to commit to California and their high prices, but I was still able to get that experience and like, you know, get a lot of information and opportunity from, getting in contact with like a lot of the teachers I had and a lot of the comic shops and indie like kind of comic scene that was there. I gained a lot from that, and I learned a lot. I was able to kind of definitively like increase my comic chops, because I had done comics for like a long time. I did Guy Diary comics. I did like comics based off my own characters, but I think my like skills in comicking really like skyrocketed in the last few years or so, and I feel like I'm definitely more confident in like my comic making skills, although um definitely have a long way to go, and I still am like trying to get way better, but um but yeah, I graduated. I have a master's in comics now, so it's kind of funny to have like a master's and like be educated in that sort of way. And I've been now pursuing still doing like my personal work. I've done like a bunch of like comics in the last few years. I've taken up like printmaking or the printing process, figuring out the printing process of making comics, specifically like Rizzo printing, learning how to do Rizzo printing and printing my own work and kind of doing it myself because I am still self-published. And then also getting into like the teaching kind of realm of things. So I've done like some workshops and both in person and through SAW, which is based out of Florida. And if y'all are familiar, they're the sequential arts workshop, and they offer a lot of courses and resources for comics and people who are interested in like doing graphic novels, and they have a whole host of things over there too. But yeah, I've done some workshops with them. I did like a fellowship with them. I also did a fellowship with another um organization here in Texas where I was doing work for to get like outreach for younger adults and doing art for them. But yeah, I've kind of had my hand in a couple of different things, but ultimately it all kind of comes down to comics and figuring out a way where how can I like fit a comic into what the prompt is or what I'm doing. And right now, I'm working on my main project is this comic called LOVEFOOL, and it's about a girl. It's like a satirical romantic comedy, and it's about a girl who's like obsessed with the idea of love, but is like super socially inept, and she essentially gets wrapped up in like a pyramid scheme where she gets involved with a company that wants to sell love to people, and she's like the primary customer, and hijinks ensue basically. But yeah, that's the long and short of it. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. I'm gonna share my website first because I think that would be the easiest way to start off, and then I'll go from there. Let's see. So, all right. Can everybody see my screen here? Yeah? Okay. So I'm just gonna jump around. This is my website, and I recently kind of changed it a bit. So, but this is like the landing page. This is what you'll see. But yeah, let me just show you some of the comics I've done over the last couple years. So this one, Father's Heart, this is what I did at the end of my bachelor's degree. This is kind of like my thesis project, and this is when I knew I definitely wanted to like pivot into comics more, and I also wanted to incorporate like animation and kind of the skills I learned like from like taking my animation classes and also just having an interest in it. So I wanted to do like an animated comic. I was inspired by other like web comics I'd seen in the past, and I wanted to kind of give my go at it. So yeah, you can read the whole comic on my website. Each it's like a different page. But yeah, the kind of the cool part about it is like there are panels that are like animated. So here you can have her like I have her like out of breath because she was like getting home, and I learned a lot from this project. I used Photoshop when I was doing this project. I was still using Photoshop. Now my I use my iPad and I use Procreate, so my kind of my tools have changed. But I really learned a lot about like kind of my teacher taught me a lot about kind of like layout, kind of building an atmosphere within like the background and comicking and like just sort of composition and like things that I had kind of already knew from just doing comics in general, but were able to like hone in on specifically for this project. So I felt like it was particularly educational for me. I tried there's a lot of things that I hadn't done before because again, previously I just done a lot of like diary comics and just like random like strips. So it wasn't anything super specific or like pointed like this has been. And also it's like a very personal story where it's like it's about a girl who wants to be a ballerina and her father doesn't want her to be that ballerina and would rather want her to do something completely different. So I kind of illustrate it from this perspective of her taking this call from her dad, and she kind of goes into this different place where she's like overhearing these different conversations he's having about her, and it's just the idea of like having like your own agency and being like I'm making a choice for myself is essentially the point of the story. But yeah, it was really cool to work on, and like I said, I learned a lot from it. And I would love to do something like this again. I've done comics since then where they had slightly animated elements, but I haven't done a comic like this where it's like every page there's something there moving, and I would love to kind of incorporate that again and do it with more of my skills. And I have kind of like some other ideas of how I would go about this now, but this is still one I really enjoy going back to. And yeah, so that's that one. Again, all this is on like my website, so even after the meeting, you can kind of go back and check it out. And then all these comics are from when I started my master's over at CCA. So this one was just like a quick should I this one was just like quick stupid like comment. I like posting it because I just think it's funny, and yeah, it's just a quick little idea where Nicole Georgia, she was my teacher at the time. And I also worked for her as like a teacher's assistant. But she had this idea of like drawing like an embarrassing part of your childhood, but you're depicting yourself like as an animal was like the gag. So I kind of depicted myself as like a little doggy. And I don't know, I really enjoyed this. I kind of do diary comics on and off these days. Most of the time I'm kind of just working on like my main projects or something completely different. So this was really nice to like do like specifically like a diary comic that's just me, but like with a little twist, I guess. And again, this is like after I've kind of picked up Procreate and I was kind of testing out some of these like texture brushes, which I really enjoyed. Whenever I make art, I really enjoy having my digital work look like it was done traditionally. Obviously, those like if you know, you know, but so you can kind of pick out, if it's done digitally, but I still like having that texture and having the brushes I choose kind of replicate that as best as I could, and also like just working traditionally as well. I'm trying to incorporate that more into my more recent work, but yeah, I like having that texture. My work is kind of characterized by it's like super exaggerative. I like doing a lot of stuff based in humor. I kind of pull personal stories, but then kind of like extrapolate them as much as I could. Um, and kind of kind of working on that like character acting exaggeration of the figure. uh yeah, those are the things I really like am drawn to, and I feel like that would be like the through line through all my work is just kind of like exaggeration and like something that's like more character based, and then the plot kind of comes after and you're kind of there for the character because you've kind of fallen in love with them as opposed to like maybe the story, even though the story is pretty good too. But yeah, so there's that one. And then this one is another one I did for Nicole's class. This is for like our journalism assignment, but I really enjoyed how this looked. Like I enjoyed how what I did with it. I ended up just like printing it and like um selling it and like self-publishing it as its own thing. But this is like a mixture between like I kind of like to peg it as like edutainment because it's like a personal story as well as like being educational in the best way I can. And so I talk about like my relationship and how I met my boyfriend on DeviantArt, if y'all know what DeviantArt is. And I kind of just go through like meeting him and like kind of also talk about like the time like at that time how online relationships and also like the internet was in like the early 2010s or so, because it's obviously very very different to what it is now in 2025. So I kind of go through that and kind of talk about like the kind of how the culture and society kind of felt about like long distance relationships and kind of how they kind of changed throughout the years following like the early 2010s to like the late 2010s, and um even like kind of into the 2020s or so. But yeah, it was just kind of like, and this one was interesting because I also drew this with the intention of it kind of being like a vertical comic. So a lot of my comics are done like I draw them with the intention of printing them afterwards because I self-publish all of my comics. So I get them printed and I get them done in that way. But this one was specifically, I mean, I got this printed anyways, and I think it translated well as a booklet. But I think this one works really, really well as just something you could just scroll through. And that's kind of how I approach the composition. So yeah, everything like kind of flows into each other. And I try to kind of keep that flow as you like keep scrolling with the placement of like my text boxes and like the imagery, which is something I pay attention a lot in my work and is the composition and how each part of the page is part of the whole composition of the comic page. So it's not only the drawing itself, it's like the placement of your word bubbles, it's the placement of your like emanata and like your sound effects and stuff. All of that is like working in conjunction for like the composition of your comic page. So I try to think about that as much as I can and try to make everything flow into one another as much as possible. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing this one. Again, it's like another personal story, and I love like the idea of love, and I love like playing around with it, which you'll see with my main project. But yeah, this was just really fun to do, and it was very very cheeky. I didn't take it super seriously in terms of like the great dangers of like online dating, even though it's totally real, and I did touch on it, but like I feel like we've had so much like media regarding that where I felt like this was just a nice little different take on that whole thing. And yeah, the first like half of it is available to read, but you can see I kind of like with every page it's like something different, and I kind of try to approach each page with like just a different sort of layout. And yeah, let's see. This one, it's called Pudica 33. This was a comic I did for the short box, what was it called? The Shortbox Comics Fair. So if you guys are familiar, there's the Shortbox Online Comics Fair, which is an online comics fair. You can submit to it, and basically for a month you can go in and like buy a bunch of indie comics online. It's pretty great. And I've done a couple of comics through that fair. So and this was my first one. So this one is about an alien that is in search of a flower that whenever you touch it, it dies. So I kind of like telling people that this is kind of like a story about like found family in a way and kind of existential dread a bit, even though it's a pretty short comic. It's about like 20 pages. And my reasoning for this comic even existing was originally I wanted to do a comic where I had the excuse of just drawing like a bunch of flowers and like botany because I really, really enjoy drawing flowers and just like kind of exaggerating them and pushing them. And I found that over the years, that's just something I always kind of returned to doing. So this comic was like my reason, like an excuse for me to do that. And I kind of built a story around it. And I really enjoy kind of how this comic came out. I started the thumbnails of it before I started my first semester at CCA, and then I finished it soon after. So when I look at it, I can easily tell like the things I like learned in that first summer there, I was able to like carry forward with me and immediately put it into my work, and that was really fulfilling for me. Um, and also like the idea of like doing a project based off of like something you want to do. Like I feel like every project you should be able, the goal should be learning something new or trying something different. Even if it's something small, like, drawing a bunch of flowers, like that's, whatever. But I feel like from that like yearn, I was able to like kind of produce like a really, I don't know, a really lovely comic that I was really happy with and I was able to experiment with and learn a lot about. And as you can tell, probably from this comic and my other work, you'll see in a little bit, I'm really drawn to color. I really love utilizing color and like again shape language. My workshop that I did for Saw was actually like a color storytelling workshop where I talk about how you can utilize color as a storytelling device in your comics and how you can really accomplish so much with color without the reader even realizing like what you're doing. And it's a very effective way of like comic storytelling specifically. So um yeah, I remember specifically this page was directly inspired by this is my first time in San Francisco, so we did a couple of like the touristy things, and I think we went to the Redwoods, is that there? Or Muir Woods, one of the two. And I was taking like kind of reference pictures and like I was kind of inspired by how tall the trees were and kind of how things were kind of being framed. So this I remember like this page in particular was kind of inspired by that, and I was trying to like group like take that and put it onto the page. Um, but yeah, I really, really enjoyed this comic, and again, I learned so much from it. And yeah, it's like I said, it's like a story about freaking found family and this alien kind of finding comfort in this flower, essentially. Um, yeah, let's see. Um, next, so let's see. This one's kind of weird to explain. Not weird, but like I don't know, necessarily know how to explain it. But so I have like a bunch of drawings, and also I've done comics where it's these little like creatures that I call peoply. And they're these little like gnome like creature dudes that wear like red hoods, and like they wear like full body suits. But I just like drawing them, and I've drawn them so much now that I almost tell people that they kind of infected my work, because they kind of just started springing out of nowhere, and now I can't stop drawing them. So I've started making comics of them. This comic in particular, the one you're seeing pages for right now, is was featured in a comics anthology called Knapsack. And the theme of the anthology was music and like tapes and old like music tech. So this comic in particular was about like a little peoply dude who was caught cheating on his on their partner. And the partner finds out, so they try to find a way to like get them back, and they find this tape that whenever you play it, like everyone falls in love with you basically. But he's using it under the guise of like, I want my girlfriend back, or I want my partner back. But things go awry, and everybody in the town comes by to because they're all attracted to this uh music. And lo and behold, they get caught cheating again right as their ex-partner comes in. And it kind of the whole thing like starts over from the beginning. They're like you're at square one. And that was really silly. This one was also printed in Rizzo print on risograph as well. So it had a very like limited color palette, which I also enjoy working in. Really limited color palettes. And yeah, it was really once I share like the part of like my files, my actual files as opposed to my website, I can show more pages from this comic. But yeah, this one was really fun and silly. And again, I played with textures, and I kind of tried to play around with the comic layout and do some different things, and kind of and my thing for this comic was I didn't want any dialogue specifically from the characters themselves. So that was like the thing I was trying to test myself on. Like there's like these couple of narration boxes, but I'm just mostly just doing no dialogue. And then I have this comic that I did where I let's see. Yeah, I did this comic last year, at the end of last year, and it was about me. I was trying to do a comic about like sleep paralysis. Um, where long story short, I've had sleep paralysis for like a really long time, and I've experienced it ever since I was a kid, and it kind of goes on and off. It's at the point where it's funny when I have it, because it's like I'm kind of over it, so I'm just like I don't want to like yeah, like I don't want to deal with it anymore. But for this one, I wanted to do a comic where I kind of tried to showcase like in my earlier years how that would feel. And I really wanted to explore just like having these big um page page wide like layouts. And again, no dialogue, just like having like the imagery tell the story, and have it more creepy, and with the angles, and like again the texture and like the expressions that I chose. This like kind of weird, like again, limited color palette, these textures, and just trying to like bring it down to the bare necessities in a way. Um, and I wanted to make this a longer comic, but I'm I haven't returned to it. I might return it to it like this October and kind of finish it out, but it was something I did for another anthology that my school had. And I think the prompt was something about sleep, or I don't know, I forget. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing this again, like just trying to do different things. And yeah. And then like for my main project, it's called LOVEFOOL. And again, it's about a girl who's like obsessed with the idea of love. She lives with her grandma, who's like super like religiously um in like she's super religious, and she also suffers from like arrested development. So she's just so obsessed with the idea of love and getting with a guy, but doesn't know how like social cues. She doesn't know how to like get with people, or like just interact with people in general. And it kind of leads to a lot of like cartoon hijinks. And yeah, I'm kind of like satirizing a bit of the like romantic genre. I really enjoy a lot of like comics that are kind of a bit edgier, and kind of like poke fun at these like long established genre things or stereotypical things, and I kind of wanted to create something like that with my own slant. Having like the super eager lead character, but she's like kind of held down by herself, and then like everyone else kind of seems like an asshole in comparison, which they all kind of are in their own way. But yeah, I this is what I'm working on right now. This is my ongoing project. I'm currently updating this. This is a webcomic that you can read right now. And again, yeah, I really enjoy, so I mentioned how I really enjoyed animation, and like I originally wanted to get into animation prior to kind of changing it to focusing on comics. So I feel like a lot of my animation like likes and draws kind of can be seen throughout my work, where it's like I really enjoy like very exaggerated and pushed acting that you would see in like a Tex Avery or like even like a Ren and Stimpy sort of thing. And just like having like characters just be pushed and not so, and again like be biting in a way where it's not super harsh or anything like that, but like it's like, oh dang, you said that, like and it'd be funny and be exciting. And a lot of these comics I've read like comic readings. So for me, it's like whenever I write dialogue, I also like say it out loud and say it to myself, and that kind of helps me with like creating dialogue, if that makes sense. Because it's like if it doesn't sound right when I'm saying it, then obviously it doesn't really quite sound right when when someone's reading it on the page. So that's kind of a way I kind of do my dialogue and kind of approach my writing as well. My process in comics is kind of like it really depends on what I'm doing. With Loveful, it's kind of all over the place because I want to kind of try out different things, just because I don't want to kind of stay still with it since it's my ongoing project. But with other projects, I kind of do kind of like a loose outline, and then I do thumbnails based off the outline, and then I kind of change it. And I'm still making changes even as I'm like inking sometimes. Like I'll be like, oh, actually, let me just redraw this. This isn't even looking right, and then I'll change it right there. Whereas with Loveful, it's a lot of the same, but I try to plan a little bit more with like the dialogue and like because some of the dialogue is based in like what they're saying, but then I also like push it up from like how I'm drawing them and like or maybe like the sound effects or whatever. So it kind of works in tandem with each other, much like you would like maybe like when you're working like an animated thing or something. But yeah, and then these are the main characters. So this is Maria, and then like I said before, she kind of gets t tied up in a love for hire, like a pyramid scheme that's based around love. And these two are Tiffany and Frida, who are like the cupids for that pyramid scheme. And they're kind of really shit at their jobs and just kind of like, are trying to get things over with. So it leads to a lot of like, you know, problems and things, as you can imagine, because she's so earnest and they're so like cynical and self-involved. So it just leads to a lot of like, huh. Um, but yeah, that's basically a good overview of kind of like my comic work. I'll show some of my illustration work. Let's see. I'll just kind of scroll through these a bit. But yeah, this is like some of my illustrative work. I also do a lot of events in person. So I was talking to Bill earlier, but I do a lot of events where I go to a lot of comic, not conventions, but Zine Fest specifically, or I do like art book fairs in Texas and also out of state. I've done like SPX and MICE, Portland Zine Symposium, Short Run. I know y'all have Short Run. But yeah, I try to, go out of state and like kind of get my stuff around to different places. And it's also really nice just to see like what other people in different spots are doing. Like obviously we have the internet and like Instagram and stuff to see, follow other people, but it's just nice to see it in person and kind of to make that face-to-face connection. And I've kind of picked up on a lot of things just from like tabling at so many different places and seeing how like the cartoonists in this area are kind of approaching things and trying to pull some of that into my work while also bringing my own like perspective. But again, yeah, I do a lot of like character centric work, a lot huge emphasis on color, um, just kind of like exaggerating the form and I don't know, even in like my illustrations, even though it's like a comic itself, I like for people whenever they look at my illustrative work to kind of find the story out of it. This is like this here in the left right is like an example of like me drawing again, like drawing like very exaggerative and like like crazy plants, and you can see it here with my alien character. I just draw this like crazy flower, but Yeah, so that's like some of my personal work. And then here's some of my like freelance and like commission work. So this was a cover I did for that school anthology I mentioned earlier. The anthology name is Electric Squeak. So their main character, their mascot is like a little mouse. And I think like I said, the prompt was like sleep or nightmares or something like that. But I did something where it was kind of inspired by Winsor McKay and like the way he drew Little Nemo and like the way he would draw the his bed and being super like elongated. So I kind of drew from that just a bit in the way I gave him a little pajama and like how I did the bed, but having the moon kind of shine down on him and having the anthology logo in it. So, but yeah, I did this. I like how this one came out. This is my fellowship work I did with a Texas organization back in 2022 called Jolt Action. It was a group that was trying to outreach to younger voters in Texas specifically. So I just did a bunch of like illustrations. There's primarily a Latino organization, but they let me be a fellow of them, and I was able to do a lot of like kind of Latino centric work for them, which was really fun because I kind of tapped into the skills I learned when I was on the newspaper. It was more sort of this sort of stuff. But yeah, that was really fun, and it was interesting kind of working with like a team of people in that way. This was work I did for Bando, which is a planner and like kind of office stationery company. I designed stickers, and I also did this spread for their calendar planner, which was really fun. I kind of just did whatever I wanted, and again, I had my little peoply dudes kind of hanging around. Uh, in the in this. But yeah, this is really fun. I never worked with a planner company in this way, and I do stickers. I sell stickers on my own. Not so much. I don't do a lot of like designs or anything. I kind of do like a set of designs and then sell that, and then it's kind of done. And I don't do it for another like 6 months or so. But it was really fun to kind of come up with these designs based on like what they were their direction and. Yeah, this is a really cool project. I also do like personal commissions. So I typically do like a Valentine's Day commission sale. Valentine's Day is my favorite holiday, so I try to do something for it. But I usually offer like Valentine's Day commissions, and I draw people with their lovers in some way. So that's really fun to do. This was a piece I did for Eater. It was an editorial piece about like a macaroni and cheese recipe. So yeah, again, like with all my work, I try to make, even if it's like something basic, I try to like push it and try to make it at least interesting and so because so it's interesting for me to do it. Um, so it could be there's so many different ways you can take like a food illustration, but I wanted to really be like, okay, let me if you're gonna talk about macaroni and cheese, like here it is, like up in your face and it's all ooey gooey and stuff. And yeah, and I also did a artwork. I was commissioned to do some artwork for a musician based out of New York. I did his album cover and his EP cover and some other work for him. And yeah, that was really fun. I've done work for a musician in the past, but this was definitely like I learned a lot from doing this and like taking the edits in and like applying them and but still giving it like that old like giving it my type of treatment, which I think worked really well. But yeah, that's basically it from like my website and stuff. I know I've been like yammering, but if you guys have any questions for me, or if there's anything in particular you'd want to see more of, yeah, just let me know.
Well, I thought it was a wonderful talk, and you put in a lot of information, and you had a lot of wonderful illustration. And yes, you can see the Ren and Stimpy in there. It's like macaroni style,
Yeah,
and I
funny.
enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
It's funny. I was actually thinking Dexter's Laboratory mixed in with some of the
Yeah, definitely Dexter's
Yeah,
Lab for
telling.
sure. Yeah, I really like a lot of like UPA era cartoons as well. So I feel like I draw a lot of inspiration from that. Like the bold outline and just like the simplified like character silhouettes and stuff. Yeah.
this was a great talk. Does anybody
Yeah.
have any questions? You covered so much so quickly and so well. I think everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine.
Great talk.
Yeah, thank you. Let me,
Great
I can
talk. A lot of
actually,
information, a lot of art.
thank you. I can actually, uh, show more of my process here. Let me actually pull this up so you can kind of see like kind of a bit more of my process.
Hmm.
Just because you mentioned Patreon, and speaking as a fellow user of that, I can see all the
Oh
potential.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I do have a Patreon. I used to have a Patreon, but I switched over to Ko-fi.
Yeah,
Um,
and I'm
but
sorry,
mhm.
and I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep getting mixed up. I meant Procreate as far as a
Oh,
problem.
Procreate. Yes, yeah, yes, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I can talk about that a little bit more. Yeah, I use Procreate. I've been using it since I think it's been about 4 years or so. I got my iPad bit way back in like I think I got it back in 2020 or 2021 or so. So I've been using, as soon as I got my iPad, I was like, okay, great, I can switch over to Procreate because prior to that, I was just using like an old USB connected like Wacom tablet. And that wasn't like
Hmm.
like it didn't have a screen or anything. It just you connected to your computer and you just drew while looking at the screen, at your computer screen. So it was nice to have something that mimic like felt like you were drawing on paper more because I felt like at the time my skills, like my traditional skills of like doodle, like even sketching on paper, like had waned. And I feel like now that I've switched over to Procreate, I've like gotten a lot of those skills back, and I'm more like I'm happier to draw on paper more and like incorporate that more into my process and
Hmm.
stuff. But yeah, I prior to Procreate, I used to use Photoshop for everything, even for animation. I would use Photoshop for that, and then now it's more so I start thumbnailing either on Procreate directly, or I would do it on my sketchbook, which it's not near me, but I'll grab it in a second. But I would start sketching and kind of like writing down ideas on Procreate. And then from there, I would just have to sit down and really like focus in on like, okay, I have to work on this. Like, I can't have any distractions because that like, screws up my my mojo sometimes. But yeah, I sit down, I work on my thumbnails and I kind of really try to work out. Then at that point the main thing is like just getting the idea down on paper or on, on something. And then from there I edit. So I get my thumbnails down, I kind of put like figure out some of the dialogue as I'm doing my
Hmm.
thumbnails, and then from there I go back in and like kind of redraw it, or I change up the panel layout for the page, or I make all my changes or a good chunk of my changes. Um, and I usually show them to like either my boyfriend or like my fellow cartoonist friends for them to look over and see like what they think or what they think that could change, or how does it read. And then from there I kind of blow up each thumbnail, and I kind of start laying down the panels, and then I start the inking process. And even still sometimes during this part I might still like make changes to like the drawing, or kind of like if I'm not really feeling like what how something's looking, I'll just change it right then and there. Like I have no qualms about doing that.
Hmm.
um if I'm really not feeling it. And yeah, then but yeah, I just start the inking process. And then for me, I can sketch really quickly for the most part. I can do thumbnails really quickly for the most part, and I can color pretty quickly for the most part. But the inking, for whatever reason, takes me forever. Even
Hmm.
if it's like a very simple page, like it'll be like a four-panel page, and it'll be like I'll take forever on it. I don't know why that is, and this is after me kind of increasing like my speed. Like before it was even worse. Like I would take longer than forever to work on just a one page
Hmm.
comic, but now it's like it takes me forever to do 20 pages. So I feel like that's better, like because I'm still getting like 20 pages out, but it just takes me a minute. um and also I'm like I'm an artist that kind of works in like chunks anyway, so I'm trying to get better at like kind of pushing like having my work or working in a more sustainable way, where it's not like I'm just like I'm
Hmm.
on like the high of inspiration, and then like as soon as I get my thing out I like crash and not able to work for like months at a time, which just
Hmm.
I am got out of that. I just got out of that not too long ago. So I'm trying to find a more sustainable way of just working and actually getting my comics done. um but yeah, inking, and then from there I kind of touch up some stuff and I go to coloring and then like I usually finish up things in Photoshop, whether it be like kind of changing some colors here or there. And I like to see how it looks like on my computer screen versus my iPad screen because there is a difference between like how colors
Mm.
kind of show up and stuff. Um, I do kind of the last finishing stuff on Photoshop, maybe a quick little thing on Procreate, and then I save the page, it's done. And then once the issue or the comic is finished, I usually get it prepared for printing because I like to print all my work, whether it be through risograph
Mhm.
or I do digital printing, which right now I'm looking into buying my own printer so I can do that at home. But what I've been using for the last couple of years is a website called
Mhm.
Mixam.com. That's also been giving me really good results in like printing, and the color fidelity is quite nice and like the printing quality is really good. So I would recommend them. But yeah, I like printing my work. I like having a physical of it. That's something I've been very like intentional about because after working so long digitally, it's always nice just to be able to like flip through your stuff and have it physically, owning it physically. That's like a completely different feeling and I enjoy it. Um, and yeah, that's basically it for the most part in terms of comics. It's straightforward, but it's just sometimes it's like a bit of a grueling process to get from point A to point B sometimes.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's quite nice. And I feel like Procreate has made things so much easier because now like I also substitute teach. So a lot of the time I'll bring my iPad to work or I'll bring it on a trip. And I can just work from work, like I can work on my
Mm.
comic from work when there's downtime, and that portability is like a total game changer for me. Because prior I
Mm.
was only able to really work at home or just like, and then sometimes I don't feel like working on home when I get home. So to be able to have that option of like working and elsewhere and then come, like it's so great. And yeah, Procreate's really simple to use. It's like very stripped back and it kind of has the bare necessities. That to the point where I don't really miss Photoshop as like my main drawing program. There's pros and cons to both of them. And that's why I still kind of keep Photoshop because there are certain things that I know Procreate can't do, but I am able to hammer out plenty of comic pages from just straight on Procreate and be happy with like the result and stuff. And they have such a uh nice library of brushes that you can either download or even just in the Procreate app itself. The brush I use is like a 6B pencil brush, which is really, really nice. I love that brush. I use it for
Mhm.
everything. And they have other brushes for like different textures and like, that you can play around with. So it's really nice it gives you a chance to really experiment and like kind of play around. And if you're someone coming from like a traditional background, it could be nice to like be able to like replicate that as much as you can in a digital program. Um, and yeah, Apple kind of knocked it out of the park with the way it kind of works with the iPad and stuff. It's actually kind of crazy. Um, but yeah, so let me really quickly, I can just show what my thumbnails kind of look like, and then from there show you like the comparison between that and then like the final product before I kind of uh actually let me just do this. So I'm gonna share my screen. And then let's see. So this is like my LOVEFOOL folder. Right now I'm working on like the second issue. So I have like all these different folders and stuff. But I'm gonna show you kind of like my process for the first issue I did. And which I did like I made a lot of stuff for it. So and again with this project, like I kind of like incorporating. So with this project with LOVEFOOL, I like incorporating all facets of it. So it's a comic, but I also like have my boyfriend do like jingles for like each episode. So there's like a music component to it. I also have like animation for like the kind of like how a cartoon would have like an episode title, a title screen. I've animated like a little like title screen for it. So I try to incorporate different facets of the comic so it feels more like alive and like you're just getting so much out of it. But let's see. So all right. Bloop. All right. So actually let me okay. So these are the thumbnails and I don't know if I can zoom in more on these. Oh yeah, I can. So yeah, these are the thumbnails and even here they're like a bit cleaner than usual, but like yeah, these are the thumbnails and the main thing is like I try to just get the idea down and I learned very quickly like it doesn't have to be pretty. You don't have to like spend a lot of time on like a drawing. Like that negates the point of thumbnails. Like you're just trying to get the idea down. So very like scritchy and scratchy, but I know what it all means. And like here I even like went in and like kind of typed in like the dialogue just so I know like, oh, that goes here. And yeah, so this is kind of like the starting point from usually. I think with this I also like kind of did like an outline, but I'm not gonna show, I don't think it's important to show that. It's just the outline is just like this happens, and then what I often do is I like if I have like an idea for a gag, a specific gag, then I'll like sketch out the gag like really quickly so I don't forget it, and then incorporate it in the thumbnails here. Um but yeah, usually we kind of start here. I have like this really quick, and then in this episode in particular, it doesn't really stray too much from the thumbnails themselves. Like the episode pretty much looks like what it looks like the what the thumbnails are. But so yeah, let me pull up the PDF if it'll open. There we go. Um and yeah, so this is the final product. Special thanks to. And then episode one. Um and with Loveful, like my thing is like I'm trying to like it's a satirical take on like kind of like those romance soap operas in a way too. So instead of chapters, it's like episode one, like oh my gosh. And so that's like a little thing there. And yeah, and then as you saw in the thumbnails, like this is basically what the first page looks like. Breaking this establishing shot into like these three panels because and having like dialogue break up in each panel as well. And then this is like I'm not afraid of like just having a page just can be completely blank or be completely one color because to me that's like I don't know, I feel like that's really interesting and like it really like makes emphasizes like the spotlight that kind of opens up on her in the next page. So I've done this a couple times in the previous comics, but I had to do it like in this particular part too. But yeah, like playing with color, having this texture, having the text come out this specific way, and it's like super dramatic, and then having this panel just be like so like whatever, like just kidding. But yeah, this is what the final product looks like. Um, yeah, trying to have it like flow really nicely, and again, like I kind of think in a bit of like animation terms as well. So I like having the comic feel like it's like almost reading like a storyboard, or like you can see like the characters move on the page, and it feels very active. Um, Even if they're like just sitting here, like it feels like something's happening. Um, yeah, but this is what the final looks like compared to the thumbnails. And then I'll show you the example of what I meant by the see. And then like I had this has if you go on my Instagram, you can see it with like the music, but like this is what I did for like the opening where I just kind of animated that like panel of her like praying to God. And I kind of just did this thing where it's like ooh, and it's the episode title at the bottom and it just closes again. So that was really fun. I want to do that for like every episode or try to at least and incorporate like I can slightly animate, so I want to like incorporate that a bit into this project. Um and yeah, that's pretty much it there. And then this is all like different things. And then like this is I have like some like development sketches like when I was first like making up the story, like kind of like I made like a small little map of like where things are in relation to each other. I was kind of thinking of like ideas for like buildings and like these are like character sketches. I do all of this out of order, by the way. Like sometimes I won't even think of like a design until I have to draw the character, and then it's like, oh yeah, I should probably figure out how I'm gonna draw this person that I have to draw a bunch of times now. But um yeah, and then here are like more examples of just like my thumbnailing and kind of how that looks here. This is like a episode where like Maria has like a rat in her and her grandma's apartment, and like the rat they're trying to kill it, but Maria doesn't want to kill it, so it's like a whole thing. Um, yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, stop sharing.
That was fun. Actually, I do have a question, and it's in the mind of anybody who hears the word Patreon. Are you making a living at this?
Oh no, 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 no. Not yet at least. Um Yeah, I mean, I'm still learning how to like the thing with me is like I hate like promoting myself in that sort of way, even though I need to kind of get over that and be like, girl, like come on. So I'm being a bit more forthright with it, but and also I want people to have access to my work, and then the Ko-fi be something for like if you're like a really big fan of my work, like you get extras that other people are not able to get.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
how I operate it is like for Loveful, it's mostly like Loveful centric. I have it to where you can read Loveful for free. Like that's not behind a paywall or anything. And you can read it on Ko-fi, or on Patreon. But the benefits are, you get to read the pages earlier, typically. And then I have all these other
Hmm.
things that I don't post publicly. So I have like those thumbnails. I have those thumbnails behind like a membership. I have extra strips, like extra comics that I do for Loveful that are only for my Ko-fi members that they can read and are not typically posted anywhere else. I have mail rewards. I don't really do that typically, but like that's like an occasional you get something in the mail reward. So basically all this other stuff that I typically wouldn't post publicly, but I'm comfortable with somebody who's really, really into where my work to share it with them. Like that's kind of where the membership comes in, and that's what they get access to. And I mean, it always shocks me whenever I do get a member. I'm like, oh, hey, that's cool. But yeah, it's still something I'm trying to build, and it's like still very much like my first time kind of doing the Ko-fi and the Patreon thing. Like I did my Patreon like a couple years back, and that was starting to like be okay. And then like I cut it off because I preferred Ko-fi's model and like how I could also host my shop on here as well. So um I went with Ko-fi, but I think art-wise, I make the majority of my money just from doing like in-person events and like selling my work in person. That's where I would make like majority of like my art money because I don't know why that is. I think it's just because I still need to get better with like posting and online. I don't know. I don't know what I need to get better with in terms of that, but like I sell a good chunk of I make more a majority of my money from just in-person selling and like selling my work um at like places like SBX or Short Run. Like I do really, really well in those sort of like indie spaces and even like local events sometimes like people typically don't get a chance to see comics at art events sometimes. So I kind of went out in that way where it's like, oh, you're the only like you're maybe one of two people who are doing like zines, and then you're like maybe the only person doing a comic sometimes at an event that's like art centric. So um yeah, I'm pretty successful in doing that, and like yeah, I'm still trying to figure out the Ko-fi thing and how to like push it more or whatever, but it's not something I'm uberly like worried about or anything. It's just something like, oh, I'm offering it, I'm trying to grow it. But yeah.
Well, think of it as people deserve to see your work
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You want to get out there and let them know.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been trying to find like creative ways to like kind of promote it and get people on it. And yeah, like I'm kind of over like if you want to, it's like here it is. I'm presenting it to you. Take it. Like take it or leave it.
Well,
But like here it
you
is.
you will now have a very nice YouTube video, which Bill will be posting,
Oh, okay.
and that you can then go on all the social media. And when Bill sends me links, then I share them. And so send them to, have a little list of friends to send it to and say, come see this. It's beautiful. Share it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I know the
But
PR is like, but it's if you want to sell. Well, agents these days, you're your own agent, and I know the idea back when you were a kid of like, oh no, it's not that good. Who wants to see my stuff? Well, we want to see your stuff, and we had a great
yeah.
time watching it.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And um oh gosh, what was I gonna say? I totally forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I have enough confidence in my work to where I feel like if I'm doing an event or if I'm selling my work somewhere where it's like I know I put a lot of effort and like I put in the work into make creating like a really good piece of work and art. So, I'm not half-assing anything. I'm really trying to put my best foot forward and again, like trying to do something different with each iteration of a comic that I do. So at the very least, I can be comfortable with myself being like, well, I'm putting out like the best I can. Like this is a like you're not getting anything half-assed from me. So yeah.
Yep. Well, I was looking at the work and the kind of work you do and I market it, but I'm the outreach coordinator for a Washington State convention called SquatchCon, and
Oh, cool.
it's a convention for it's a Comic Con, so it's got for
Oh,
everything there.
nice. Hmm.
But I certainly would certainly love to see you up here. It's a
Oh
long ways,
yeah.
and but it's beautiful, and you could deduct a vacation. But
Well,
it's
absolutely. I mean,
SquatchConPA.com.
what? How do you spell that?
Ooh, I will just type it into the chat. How's
Yes,
that sound?
please. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
looking.
www.
I'm always
Wait,
looking for for a reason to go up to Seattle because I really do like it up there. It's beautiful.
Yes, it is.
well, I'll tell you what, because this is out in Port Angeles, your travel
Oh,
situation can
cool.
either be difficult or it can be simple,
Hmm.
including the very inexpensive bus transportation with a full-size Greyhound bus that the
Ooh,
county now has. So I'm
nice.
if you're the kind of artist that travels like that,
Yeah, yeah.
I do know that your work, and of course in SquatchCon, because this is originally based on an art market,
Hmm.
people are saying, look, we want more comic books.
Okay, okay,
And yours is the kind of book they have at this market.
okay.
So check it out. Email me. I'll put my email in here real quick.
Hmm.
And like I said, I'm the outreach coordinator. Um, although they have, that's a zero. The For my sins, they insist that my actual title is fairy godmother.
That's cute. Yeah, I'll
So
definitely check
anyway,
this out.
yeah, it's they would be lovely. We just had some Disney animators,
Oh,
and
cool.
up in the
Nice.
kids app, there's one called the Olympic Collectible Expo, and
Hmm.
they have for 2 years running they have had the voice of Lucy Van Pelt, the woman who does the voice of the Peanuts character, come to the
Oh,
convention.
oh, cool, cool, cool. Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
and we have hopefully the Bremerton Zine Fest can get back in line. So
Hmm. Yeah, that's
yeah,
part of the reason why I like traveling to these events because it just gives me an excuse to like check out like just new places I wouldn't have,
well,
checked
just
out
email me
otherwise.
back and forth because, like I say, I am the outreach coordinator, and
Yeah.
I think your work could go over really well. And this way, it's in March, so of
Hmm.
course, it takes a year to get ready for anything, and that way, we have very, very good, a lot of comparatively inexpensive places to stay, things like that.
Nice. Yeah, I'll definitely get in contact with you for that. That'd be awesome.
Yay!
Have you been to Short Run?
Yeah, I went last year. It was
Mhm.
great.
Worth it.
I love short runs. It's so I think they're changing to a different
Venue.
venue this year, but it's so compact. Like
Yeah,
I've been to it twice back in 2023 and then last year was it 2023 or 2022? I think 2022. Um but yeah, both times I was like, "Oh my gosh, it was yeah, I hope I get in again this year."
they have a lot more space this year.
Okay,
So
good.
and it's down in Georgetown. I don't know if you know about that end of Seattle. And
I'm
it is,
familiar, yes.
what is it, a big arts center? Or what is it?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It
Some
looks
sort of
good. I
like
mean, they sent
design.
the photos out. It looks really nice. They got a
Yeah,
lot
I'm
of space.
excited. Yes, I hope I get in. I'd love to do it again. It's such a great con and I get so many zines out of that one in particular too, so it'd be
Mhm.
great. But
That's a
yeah,
great
that's
talk.
that's yeah. Yeah, that's basically it. That's all I got for y'all.
But
Well, that was a lot. It was wonderful. Really wonderful.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yeah, no, great.
I get the best people.
Once again, great meeting you, and look forward to seeing much more. And hopefully, if you go to Short Run, look forward to seeing you in person.
Absolutely. I'll
Oh, yes,
definitely
please.
let y'all know to if I get in and be like, hey, I'm gonna be in up in Washington again. So would
Yeah.
sure definitely love to do it. And I'll definitely check out SquatchCon for sure. And get in
Oh,
contact with you for
excellent.
that.
There are kind of people.
Well, thank you all so much for inviting me on to talk to y'all. And yeah,
Mhm.
we had a lovely time talking to you about my work.
We enjoyed it.